So here are the planetary boundaries that I mentioned, and I'm sure when you see this image, it'll become more familiar. So the 9 planetary boundaries, Johan Rockström, he created this with 28 international renowned scientists at the leading Stockholm Resilience Center, which is part of the Stockholm University. And the Planetary Boundaries Framework has really generated a lot of interest in science and policy and in practice as well. And they identify 9 processes that make our Earth stable and resilient. And the boundaries are within how we can continue to develop and thrive as humans for generations to come, to live sustainably. And if we cross these boundaries, it increases the risk of irreversible environmental change. So you've got some red zones here. You can see that 6 have been crossed. So the first one is biodiversity loss. We'll take a look at that in more detail later. The second one is nitrogen and phosphorus loading. So I'd like you to pop in the chat why you think, what is the main pressure on this boundary on nitrogen and phosphorus? Has anybody got any ideas? Let's give you a minute or two maybe for nitrogen and phosphorus. Any ideas? And I'll keep an eye on the chat. This is very much linked to the excessive use of fertilizers in the agriculture system. So we're talking about industrial agriculture systems and animal slurry, so manure from factory farms. And these contain a lot of nitrogen and phosphorus, which run off into the waterways. And we don't often much hear about this, but we should be doing more. And it also creates a lot of imbalance in soils and plants and animals, so they can't thrive. It also creates a lot of dead zones in the world's oceans, and is the main cause of pollution in UK rivers. So a very famous case you probably have heard of recently is the River Rye, the case against Avara. So chicken manure contains high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus, which makes it a fantastic fertilizer for crops, but the nutrients can be washed into waterways when it rains, and that can cause the algae to starves the river of oxygen. So that's that one. And then the third boundary here you can see is land system use, or what we call land use change. So can anybody put in the chat, you know, what do you think the main pressure on habitats is? Any idea what that could be? Absolutely. Deforestation, increased monocropping to meet the needs of our expanding population for food. And again, both of those are linked back to our industrial agriculture. And the fifth one is green water. So most of us are familiar with the term freshwater, meaning water from rain and rivers, lakes, and our groundwater. But water is called green when it comes from the cycle created by soil and plants. And the intensive use and consumption by humans depletes the resources of this water. And this, again, is partly due to agriculture. It's really essential for maintaining soils and humidity levels of the forest, like the Amazon. And then the sixth boundary we have crossed is climate change. And again, we'll look at those later in detail throughout the course. But it's just good to remember that for good planetary health means a strong social foundation based on our UN SDGs. So they're all interlinked and healthy humans. So what we call planetary health and human health, we need them both in order to thrive. Okay. So here you can see that circle in the middle. So can you write in the chat if you or your family or community have experienced a pressure or a shortfall on these boundaries? Any thoughts there? So you can see the red arrows pointing inwards showing where we're not meeting this basic human needs on a global level. So what do we mean by basic needs? We mean water, food, education, and equity. So in order to meet these social needs, we need all our planetary resources to work.